why is it so difficult to accept God's love, in your opinion?
Oh man, I yeah, if I
You
had
have
the
like
answer
an
to
hour
that,
left, right?
I know, right? Yeah. How many hours do we have? Yeah, well, I often go back to something Pope Francis said in April of 2013. This was when he was newly elected Bishop of Rome, and the actual kind of cathedral of the Diocese of Rome is the Lateran Basilica. And Pope Francis, in that particular liturgy, gave a homily where I and others, I'm not original in thinking this way, have talked about this as kind of Pope Francis announcing his mission statement. And here we can, more than a decade now, look back and see that this is kind of par for the course, which is all about mercy. And I think, to your point, why is it so hard to accept God's love? I think it's because fundamentally we don't believe that we're worthy of it, that we need to do something. And part of that, if not most of that, I think is conditioned by our experience of such qualified love in our human relationships, even those in our families where there might be the closest thing in healthy family relationships to an unconditional love. And so if we take that experience of conditioned love, of qualified love in this life, all we have to talk about God and understand God is our human experiences and language. We know that God is incomprehensible, but yet God is knowable. We can talk about God, but we do so analogously. We do so somewhat removed. And so I think when we're thinking this way, we have no choice, no recourse but to draw from our experience of human love. I think it's harder for people who have felt an absence of that close to unconditional love. It doesn't mean that even those who have can accept God's love completely. And what Pope Francis says in that homily has always stayed with me. I'm going to paraphrase it here is that he says, God doesn't actually want anything from you. God is already there. All God wants you to do is turn to God. I've always visualized this as like you're facing one direction and God is like literally standing behind you. You don't have to pay anything, you don't have to do anything, but turn toward God. Just turn around, in the fear that we're going to be rejected or overlooked or minimized or what have you that we carry with us from our earthly relationships. I think inhibits too many people from just turning. That's all. Pope Francis says, don't, literally, that's it. God will take care of the rest. And how few of us are able to turn around. I know I struggle with that, right? It goes back to the true self. It goes back to Francis of Assisi's notion of who we are before God. But in little ways, I think, to your point, we can find ourselves in situations where we are either written off by others or we write ourselves off. And that gets in the way of accepting God's love.